Hey y'all, my name is Dallas and I am making a short video series here on how to pass the ANCC PMHNP boards. I took my boards through ANCC exactly 1 month ago today, passed on my first attempt, and it was literally life-changing. I could not sleep, I could not eat, I could not focus in the entire 6 or 7 weeks I took to lead up to this test, and I was scouring the internet trying to find a million different resources to find answers on the things that were not clear to me, especially with like all the different information out there. So I am going to do it myself. I'm going to provide all of the answers to the things that I researched endlessly trying to figure out and make myself feel better about taking these boards. So I wanted to start this first video kind of explaining what the process was. So I got my psychiatric certification, like I said, through ANCC. So I chose ANCC because that is pretty much what is nationally recognized right now. The AANP also has a test. I cannot speak to that one. I did not take that test. So if you have questions on that, I'm not going to be the greatest resource, but I will work to try to find answers for you. From what I understand, the AANP is a little bit more clinically based, and the ANCC is more what you know and what you don't. So I decided to go ANCC just in case I ever move or if I need a different job. I just felt like it's going to be a little bit more beneficial for me to go that route. So to start off, let's say I got my master's in PMHNP, obviously, and that was a 2-year process. So, and that's just the beginning. Got my master's. Once I graduated from my program, you need to apply through the ANCC website, which is nursingworld.org, and then there's a bunch of different options on there. You have to apply to take the test. You can start your application before you graduate, but just know you will not get your authorization to test until after you graduate and the ANCC receives all of your information, which I'll get into. So once you graduate, you can go back into your ANCC account. They will need your conferred degree. So this means your degree that actually says conferred on it, that you are done, you met all the requirements. And they will also need a verification of education letter. So from what I'm understanding, each school has a different process in which they do this. My school, I had to go into a third-party website and then apply to get one, and then they send it directly to ANCC. You can track this on the ANCC website, and it will tell you when it was received or when they got it and they account for it in that portal. After that, you have to pay the fee. So right now we just got into 2025. It's around $300 and some. I think it was $340 something. I am not a member of any of the programs there. So if you are a member through like their website, I think you get like $100 off, but you have to pay an annual membership. So that's why I didn't do that. I may consider it in the future because I understand you get like free CEUs and things of that nature, but I just at the time just wanted to get this test done and out of the way. So it's quite the process. Don't be in a rush because it's not really up to you at this point. You have to kind of wait on your school, on ANCC, all of these things. So once the ANCC receives your conferred degree, your transcript, your official transcript, your verification of education letter, however that may be, is that through your school, a third party? I'm not sure. You'll have to ask your school how to get that. And then the fee, you will receive an email to whatever email you signed up with, and this will have your ATT number. So if you see people saying ATT, it means authorization to test. Once you get your ATT number, you can go in through, at this time, it's Prometric, and that is right through the ANCC website, and you can schedule your test at that time. So as soon as I got my ATT number, I was scheduling my test as soon as possible. At this point, by the time ANCC received all of my information, so they received my official transcript, my verification of education, my fee, I would say it was probably around the 4 to 5 week mark after I graduated. So I had put in quite a bit of effort of studying already. I mean, I started studying probably 2 weeks, studying hard, I guess I should say, about 2 weeks before I graduated. I had also taken a review course, not sponsored by them or anything, but I went through Berkeley and Associates. I did the in-person, the live review, and I did this at the end of August 2024, and I didn't graduate until November 2024. I kind of wanted to get a jump on things. I wanted to have materials so that I could be reviewing. I didn't want to feel rushed. The reason I didn't want to feel rushed is there was a pending job offer that, you know, I had to pass this test. So there was a lot of pressure there. So I wanted to feel like I had enough time to have all of this material and study. So I did that review, got all my information, all of the handouts they gave. They give you a booklet, and it has all of the stuff that you need to study. It's this thick and you have to know all of it. I would say the in-person review was nice. It keeps your attention more compared to like an online review, but I feel like it was awfully pricey, honestly, for what you got. Between the travel fees, I had to go to Chicago. I'm not from there, from a few states away. So I went to Chicago. I had to have the hotel. I had to have food, lodging, all of the things, and then the actual review course as well, which I believe was around $570, I want to say, somewhere around that, for a 2-day review course. You're in the review for about 8 hours a day. I mean, and you get a couple breaks, but you're focused for that long. So that was kind of my thought and how I wanted to go about things, how I wanted to prepare. So let's fast forward to the day of the test. I was a nervous wreck. I can say that my husband did not want to be around me. My family did not want to be around me. I was just anxious and nervous. I was so scared I was not going to pass this thing. I had felt confident in the material, but when you walk into that testing center, I swear it feels like your brain just forgot everything. You don't even remember your name at the time. It is just so nerve-wracking. Basically, how I handle things like that is a sense of humor. So I walk in, I talk to the people there. They just be aware. I mean, they're going to scan you head to toe. They're making sure you don't have earbuds in, that you're cheating. If you wear eyeglasses, they're going to check those. They even checked my bubble gum, just to make sure I wasn't chewing on any like notes or anything like that. So just be aware of that. I made jokes the whole time. I was like, I bet you guys have people that like pass out in here because they're so nervous. And they're like, we haven't had that, but we have people throwing up. Just all sorts of things, and just joking. And by the end of it, I felt so much better. I was lucky because the people that were working at the Prometric Testing Center, they were super kind, and they also had a sense of humor. From what I hear, this is not always the case everywhere, so just be aware of that. Some of them are very serious and, you know, won't joke with you. I got lucky there. But I just wanted everyone to be aware that, you know, you are going to get scanned. You're going to have a metal detector. They're going to look in every place just to make sure you're not cheating. You have to keep everything in a locker. They lock that locker. You're not allowed to go near it at all once you go back into the testing center. Once you get back there, they kind of give you a rundown of how the computer works. You can wear headphones that they provide to you to like cancel out noise if there are other test takers in the center. They gave me like a piece of laminated paper, and before my test started, again, I'm not using notes or anything, but before my test started, I'm back there with nothing. You can do like a dump sheet. We call these a dump sheet. So everything that is in your brain that you're like, oh my gosh, I cannot forget during this test, put it on the dump sheet. It just is kind of a way to make you feel more secure when you're going through all of this. So On my dump sheet, I can say I did a lot of the scales. So like the cow scale, I did the GAD, I did the PHQ, I did all of those because it was numbers that were just piling up in my head. I wanted to have those out and I wanted to get it out of my mind. So those went immediately on my dump sheet. I also did a lot of like the social development theory, like the stages and Freud's stages, things like that, that were just like taking up room in there. I wanted it on my dump sheet so I could get it off my mind and focus on reading these questions. So just be aware you can have I mean, at my testing center, they said I could have as many of those laminated sheets as I wanted. So you can just dump out everything as soon as you get there. You do not use your time for taking the test because it is timed. You do not use your time when you're doing the dump sheet. You do not have to start your test while you're doing the dump sheet. At least that's how it was for me. They let me go back and kind of get settled. And then once you start on the computer screen, you get like 20 minutes to do that dump sheet if you need. Before I even started my test, I did the dump sheet. So I'm not sure if each testing center is different or if maybe I got lucky there. But I got the dump sheet before this 20 minutes kicked in. When they start the computer screen, when they start the test, there's going to be a million instructions. They give you like some practice questions that are not PMHNP related. It's just like some random questions so you know how the computer buttons work. You are able to electronically highlight parts of your question. You can mark a question, like if you need to come back to it, you can flag it so you know which ones you had questions on and then go back to it at the end. And they are all multiple choice. So there is nothing else during the PMHNP ANCC exam. It is multiple choice and that is it, which is kind of nice. At the time, which again, we're in early part of 2025, there are 175 questions. Out of the 175 questions, there are 25 questions, which you will not know which ones they are, that are not graded per se. These are questions that the ANCC throws in there to see how people do on them, to use them as future questions. So just be aware of that. Again, you are not going to know which ones these are. There are 175 questions and you need to answer all of them to the best of your ability because you do not know which ones are being graded. In my head, as I was taking this test and I was, there are a few I'm running into, I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't remember that one. To make myself feel better, I'm like, oh, this was probably one of the ones that's not graded, so don't panic. I kept telling myself that. Again, I don't know if that's true or not, but I told myself that to kind of alleviate the nerves I had during the test. So that's a little bit about how the test, setting up the test, scheduling the test, getting to the testing center. That's how that goes. I will recommend the night before, or at least a few days before, driving to the testing center, knowing where the layout is, where to park, where to walk in. I did that. I was kind of familiar because I'm from a small town, so I was kind of familiar with this. But at the time, we got hit with like a giant snowstorm, and I was afraid that maybe they were going to cancel my test because the snowstorm was so bad. So I actually drove up there the night before to see if there was any signs on the doors that said they were closed or anything. And it just made me feel better to know exactly where I'm going in the morning. I scheduled mine first thing in the morning. So I was ready to go. Beyond this, so you're in the testing center. I put the headphones on that they provided to me because there were test takers literally in every cubicle around me. I was one of the first ones to arrive, but then they just kept trickling in after that. We have no idea if the people that are coming in are other PMHNPs or, they could be taking the bar. Who knows? So it was distracting to me to see all of these people coming in and hearing them shuffle and write on their papers and do all of that. So I put those headphones on and I focused on the screen. The time, there is a time clock when you are taking this test. It is nerve-wracking to watch that countdown, but I will say I felt that I had plenty of time when I took this test. I went through, I answered everything I knew. I had about 35 questions that I had flagged for review to come back, and I read those thoroughly and wanted to make sure, you know, I am reading them correctly, reading the answer. So I went back through, and I still had about an hour left after this test, or after the review of my answers. So I felt like there was plenty of time. I did not feel rushed. I felt like it was plenty fair to read everything. It's just nerve-wracking to watch that clock. So I'm going to advise you, don't even look at it. Focus on your test, focus on your questions, focus on everything you know, focus on your dump sheet. You're going to be fine. With everything like out there, all of the information, I want to suggest focusing on just a few items. One thing I noticed that I did when I started this test was I wanted to buy every study material, look at every study material. I didn't ever grasp anything fully. I just wanted all of this stuff. Don't do that. Just don't do that. I'm going to tell you that right now. Stay off of Amazon. Stay off of all these shopping sites that promise you all of these things. Focus on one review source. I will say I did like Barkley, thought it was kind of pricey. I have seen some materials from Georgette's review courses, phenomenal. A lot of that was like spot on to what I was tested on. So, and I hear that's a little cheaper and more doable for a lot of people because you don't have to travel. It is just like a Zoom call. She goes through everything. You know, the material that I did see from her courses, like I said, spot on. I think that you could definitely get away with just going her route if you want a review course. If not, if you cannot do that, if it's not in your budget, if, you know, whatever reason, get the ANCC Purple Book. You can get it on their website. You can get it on Amazon. So I lied, don't stay off of Amazon, but only get one thing off Amazon. Get this ANCC Purple Book and know it front to back. Know everything in there. Do all the practice questions spot on for what's going to be on your test. You have to know how to apply the material that you learn from the Purple Book to questions. So what I would suggest, start out, know all of that information in the ANCC. Go through. How I do things is I go through and I make note cards and I quiz myself as I'm going through. So when I went through my review books, it probably took me 2 to 3 weeks because I went page by page making flashcards. That helps me kind of learn the material because I'm writing it. I'm quizzing myself as I'm going through it. And it may take longer, but I have a solid foundation before I go through and I start quizzing myself. So that's just kind of how things work for me. I went through that book. I went through my review book. I made flashcards. I'll have to show you in another video, stacks of flashcards from those review books, the ANCC and the Barkley. And I had a good grasp as soon as I was done doing that. So again, 2 to 3 weeks it took me to go through that. Once I was done going through that, making the flashcards, then I went through, I quizzed myself on each of these flashcards. Anything that I was not strong in, I made a study guide. I learned by like seeing pictures, by drawing, by writing, all of these things. So I went through anything I wasn't sure. I am drawing pictures, I'm making a study guide, I'm making it colorful. However it works, or however your brain works, do it that way. Don't fall into the trap that you have to do it a certain way. Do whatever works for you. I've learned that that's what works best for me. So went through all these study guides. So I probably had, I don't know, half a notebook of stuff I wasn't completely 110% solid on after I went through my flashcards. So I made those study guides after. And I would review them and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite every single day. I would say I studied on average 2 to 3 hours per day. And certain days that I didn't have excess life stuff going on, I would say I put in about 6 hours. And again, this was for about 6 or 7 weeks leading up to the exam. So whether it was review, rewriting things, study guide, practice questions, put the time in and be confident, and then you can walk into that testing center knowing I got this. As far as practice questions go, I used Pocket Prep, and then I used American Physicians Institute. They had a free one. I didn't know if it was going to be relative toward like the PMHNP. It didn't explain things very well, but I can tell you it was phenomenal. I don't know if they're always offering this. I can put links in. I apologize if they're not offering this anymore. I don't know if it was just a trial, but Pocket Prep and the American Physicians Institute, spot on. I mean, these questions were so similar. They helped me so much. It was all of the domains of this test. It hit everything. At the end, I reviewed everything before I took my test, and I did around, I think it was like 2,100, 2,200 questions. I would do them like for 10 minutes before I fell asleep at night. I would do 10 minutes while I was taking a lunch break. All day long, anytime I could scroll on Facebook, I was doing test questions instead. Helped me so much. So I would recommend those two sites, and again, I can link it. Pocket Prep does have an app. American Physician Institute, does as well. But the app is kind of hard to navigate instead of just like the web page. So up to you how you want to do that. But again, I can link those for you. So those were all my study materials. ANCC Purple Book, the Barkley Review Course Manual. I got that when I went to the live review. You may be able to get that if you do the online course as well. I think they mail it to you. Not exactly sure. I did not do the online one, so I don't know. Pocket Prep study questions. I did the app. An American Physician Institute. I did use their web page, and it was PMHNP practice questions for the ANCC exam. So those were all of the materials I used. I got rid of all of the ones that like clouded my mind, and I just focused on those. Had a solid grasp of all of that material, and then I was able to apply that to my practice questions. So that's kind of the rundown. However, there is still so much that is just cloudy when you're studying. Like it's just not clear. And I can say that because I went through it. These review courses, books, they are great, but there are some like topics that you just need to understand that I feel like they do not explain well. So the goal of like my mini video series here is to touch on all of those things that nobody was able to help me with, or YouTube didn't provide any of these videos like exactly what I needed. So I'm gonna do that. You know, I have a full-time job. I'm doing lots of things. I have a baby, all of these things. So I'm gonna try to do this like weekly or bi-weekly for the big main topics on the ANCC exam. And I will break them down by the domains, which we won't get into right now. I'm not gonna get into all of the details of the test. I kind of covered that, but when I get into each of these topics, I will explain a little bit more of like how many questions are going to be in this domain, or what percentage of your exam score is what domain. I'll get into that as I go through these domains for you. I also am available as needed. I mean, I also have a life, so I can't say I will get to your emails as soon as you send them, but if you want to email me at pmhnpperfection@gmail.com, I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. You can ask me questions, you can ask me how the exam went, questions about the material. I want to be able to help you guys because I needed that when I was studying. I just needed somebody to tell me what I needed to know. So I'm going to try that. Again, don't expect me to answer within 30 seconds. I have a full-time job, a kid, I have hair in my eye as well. And I will, like I said, get back to you as soon as possible. If you have topics that you want me to cover, if you're like, this is something I'm just not getting, leave it in the comments, send me an email, do whatever you need to do to reach me, and I will try to make that video as soon as possible so that we can tackle this together. I want you all to pass this ANCC exam, get that green check mark, and get this off your mind so you can move on with your life. I'm telling you, this test is doable. It is nerve-wracking as all get out, but it is doable. So I'm going to try to cover as much as I can, and we'll get through this together. Like I said, if you have any questions, pmhnpperfection@gmail.com, leave a comment, whatever you got to do, and I'll see you in a week or so.